case you've been living under a rock, here's what you missed on the Austrian Revolution of 1848 right here on VN News. It all started with the economic crisis that occurred in 1845 that lasted 2 years. This recession, however, not only affected Austria, but the entire continent. One of the major effects being the widespread food shortages. But by the end of February 1848, European citizens had had enough. And in Paris, demonstrations broke out which caused Louis Philippe of Paris to abdicate the throne, prompting similar revolts throughout Europe, including our very own Vienna. Recently, right outside of Vienna, protesters made up mostly of college students and other liberals gathered around the streets to make a statement to our emperor and parliament that Austrians want individual freedoms and they want them now. However, to really understand the current political climate, we must go further back to the Congress of Vienna. For more background, one of our correspondents spoke with an individual to discuss what occurred at the Congress of Vienna and what changes we can expect to see from it. Janae?
Hello. Today we have the honor of hearing from Jonathan Jacobs, an individual specializing on the Congress of Vienna and its life-changing updates. So Jonathan, let's start off with a little general description of the Congress of Vienna to catch the viewers up.
After the despicable Napoleon decimated the countries of Europe, our hometown hero, Prince Clemens von Metternich, held a conference of the re-established countries in order to preserve the tenets of conservatism, a backlash to the radical ideas of the French Revolution.
Wow, that was great. Okay, so let's review. We have Metternich from Austria working to promote stability throughout continental Europe and to prevent another Napoleon fiasco by pushing the restoration of conservatism.
Yep, those are the basics.
So what was the outcome of the Congress of Vienna? What conservative ideals were the leaders able to push?
Well, that's the question now, isn't it? They pushed for the divine rights of the monarchs of each state and viewed reform as a form of revolution. In brass tacks, the rights given to the people early in the century were completely rescinded and any future signs of protest were stamped out. In Russia example, they used secret police to enforce their ideology.
Well, that's just fantastic. Shifting gears a little, what has been the public's response to the Congress of Vienna? I know Austria has been really pushing the conservative ideals, but does the public vibe?
Well, to be frank, not very well. The public seems to be pushing back at this measure by the collective governments of Europe, and popular support is dwindling as we speak. It seems that after they have had a taste of liberty, they want the whole glass. Back to you.
Well, thank you, Jonathan, for this insightful update. I must say, I'm intrigued to see what happens next. Thank you for tuning in. See you all next week.
Well, that is really fascinating and so informative. Oh, wow, I'm getting news of a protest that's happening right now. Let's go to our correspondent Trey, who's at the scene now. Trey?
We were on the ground here in Vienna. 3 weeks ago, as the Austrian army was leaving the city to suppress the Hungarian Revolution, protests from pro-Hungarian supporters broke out. Part of the Austrian army refused to fight the Hungarians. Angers rose due to censorship of students and the current famine. These protests quickly turned into a bloody street battle. St. Stephen's Cathedral was overrun by a mob, and the Austrian Minister of War, who was seen as responsible for the troop movements, was lynched in the street. There's been widespread looting, and over 2,000 revolutionaries have lost their lives. Count Osberg, the leader of the garrison here in Vienna, moved himself outside of the city and attacked with a combined Croatian and Austrian army. They overran the city, and the Polish general Josef Bem has fled. He was leading the revolutionaries here. The other leaders of the revolution are suspected to be executed once the city is under control.
Trey? Hello, Trey? Well, it seems we've lost connection, but I'm sure he's fine. But it's important to remember that there are more than just liberal perspectives for the future of Austria. After all, we are a country made up of a multitude of different cultures and backgrounds. Because of this diversity, there are many opinions on what the future holds for the Austrian Empire. To shed some more light on the different ideologies, I sat down with some prominent figures in the Austrian political community. Take a look. Welcome to VN Interviews. With us, we have 3 accomplished individuals here to share their insight on the social and political ideologies that will save Vienna from the trials and tribulations of anarchy. If you could all introduce yourselves to the viewers.
Hey, I'm Nancy the Nationalist, and I strongly believe that Austria as a state is failing and incompetent, and that instead, the people who they lord over should control the affairs of their states instead.
Hi, I'm Kathy the Conservative. It's clear that the revolutions around Europe have gone too far. People should remain in the Austrian monarchy. The demands calling for conservative resignation are ridiculous and will lead to anarchy. Power cannot be with the people as they are not fit to make choices because they don't understand the effects of them.
Hey, my name is Linda the Liberal. While my fellow intellectuals mean well, it is obvious that liberalism is the supreme ism. We need to be focusing on individual rights and supporting the middle class.
So now that we met the debaters, let's get started. One of our viewers, college student 1848, asks, what do liberals think about the current censorship plights of college students? Do you have any advice for us?
Austria has overextended herself to an unmanageable level. Ever since the Congress of Vienna, Austria has been attempting to put on airs about their control and power. They've attempted to push the conservative agenda down the throats of every citizen, and they continue to violate our natural rights. In this goal, they've created the conditions for the exact revolutions they were trying to stamp out. They created the means of their own destruction. The restriction of the press, along with the Carlsbad degree, only—
No! This is all wrong. If individuals in a society are misrepresenting the government using slanderous writings, the government must eradicate these lies before they spread around all of Europe.
Well, thank you for the candid attitude. We can let the audience decide whose view makes more sense. Let's continue to Learning is Whack, who wants to know what Nancy thinks about the current crisis in the Hungary province.
Crisis? What crisis? This is spectacular. I wholeheartedly support the efforts of the noble Hungarian separatists. They are an example to all the other oppressed and underrepresented peoples of Austria that our voice will be heard, and that we don't need foreign rulers controlling lands that have been in the hands of our fathers for centuries on end. Bonds made of iron will eventually rust, and nothing Austria can do will reverse the inconceivable atrocities they've done to us. They can't even provide food for our subjects, as we've seen with the recent famines, and the heavy taxes they've raised for the great Austrian military seems to only fund the higher-ups, since the actual military is nothing more than some disorganized ruffians firing blank muskets.
The great Austrian military is trying its best. It's difficult to win with people that don't want to be drafted in the first place. I mean, the troops fighting in Hungary are fighting for their empire. They're fighting for the greater stability of Europe. If uprisings are successful, it could spark revolutions across Europe.
Good.
Moving on, Not My Prince asks, what do you think about the current state of the economy?
We deserve more. We lawyers, business owners, and middle-class citizens deserve a hands-free government when it comes to the economy. Laissez-faire policies are crucial for—
These radical ideas about the economy will ultimately lead to our downfall. There's an order to these things, guys. There's famine and taxes, and I get that people are angry, but this is the way we've always done it.
No. I was making a really valid point. I think
that's all the time we have for today.
Wait, but there's still 3 more questions to be in.
Thank you for tuning in.
Well, that just about wraps up this broadcast. While the hopes of revolution do seem to be promising and have the possibility of occurring in the near future, past attempts in other countries have made this outcome seem very unlikely. Unlike Britain and France, we do not have a strong centralized middle class. Because of this, intelligent college students had little to no commonality to persuade uneducated peasants to join their movement. One plus for the lower class, however, is the introduction of a piece of legislation that called for the emancipation of peasantry, right in Austria. But I leave you with this, Austria. It's important to take note of the silver linings that are present throughout radical ideas introduced into well-established empires. They may be small or seemingly insignificant compared to your ultimate goal, but small change is still change. And from everyone in front of and behind the camera, I'm Biba Arasala, VN News.